Pollard.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pollard. I commend the honourable member for Kingswood on calling this debate, and he was right at the start to talk about how we need to preserve our historic battlefields, not only on land but also at sea. I feel like I have strayed into a very polite tussle between two Conservative members, and so you'll be pleased to hear that I wish to restrain my remarks to talk about protection of other historic battlefields, including those at sea and in particular shipwrecks, rather than taking side in this most polite of fracas. The area that I represent in Plymouth, Sutton and Devonport has our own historic battlefield in Freedom Fields, where the Plymouth parliamentarians fought off the Cavaliers on the Sabbath Day fight, ensuring that Plymouth remained on the side of the parliamentarians in the English Civil War. But we also have many memorials to those sailors who died at sea. And in particular, I want to talk about the wrecks from the First and Second World War as part of our historic battlefields theme, because it's really important that those people who died far away from our shores are also remembered with the same fondness and with the same level of protection as those people who died on UK ground as well. Now, the issue was picked up of historic wrecks by the Defence Secretary over the summer, and his intervention was very welcome. Since I entered this place in June last year, I've been raising the issue of HMS Exeter in particular, which was a Devonport-based warship from the Second World War that was sunk along with a number of other Royal Navy warships in an engagement with the Japanese in the Java Sea in the Second World War. She sank. Some of her crew was taken to a Japanese prisoner of war camp, and their experiences are well known after that. But there are many people on that ship who died on board HMS Exeter in sealed compartments. She sank to the bottom of the sea, and that was supposed to be where she would rest for the rest of her days. However, that has not been the case, because there has been illegal salvage of HMS Exeter. We no longer have an HMS Exeter on the Java Sea, because she has been completely salvaged and completely removed, including the remains of the Royal Navy sailors that died on board. There's many stories in the press over the past couple of years about the remains of those people who perished on board HMS Exeter, as well as sister ships Encounter and Electra being thrown in mass graves or discarded overboard when she was lost. And I think the same focus on protecting our historic battlefields must also apply for those that are far from our sites, and in particular in areas where we previously had a presence but no longer do, in order to keep up the protection of those sites. The Dutch government has done much work in protection of the flotilla that HMS Exeter was part of, because of the loss of a number of Dutch warships, and the Dutch Parliament in particular has been putting pressure on the Dutch government in order to do that. I think it is something that we can learn a lot from in this place about how we can keep pressure on ministers, because the MOD and the Foreign Office have, I do not believe, been as thorough as their Dutch counterparts have been in protecting those wrecks. I think in particular it's looking at when we send teams to investigate the reports of British sailors being dumped in mass graves. That was done by the Dutch, it was not done by the UK government. And I think we have a lot to thank our Dutch cousins for. In particular, I want to thank Captain Smit from the Dutch Defence and Naval Attaché in London for his correspondence and keeping us informed about how we're preserving those remains. The simple truth now is we do not know where the remains of the sailors who died on HMS Exeter are. They could be on the seabed around her previous site. They could have been taken on land when the sealed compartments of HMS Exeter were hoisted up onto salvage vessels. We simply do not know. And I think the challenge I would like to give to the Minister, as part of a discussion about how we protect our historic battlefields, is making sure that we not only monitor those lost wrecks. We already do in terms of ensuring there's no oil pollution from those wrecks. And if we're monitoring them for oil pollution, can we not also monitor them for illegal salvage? I think this is a cross-departmental exercise that needs to join up DCMS, the Ministry of Defence and the Foreign Office in a joint endeavour here. But also, can we start creating public awareness of this? Because I believe that whether we're talking about a historic battlefield on land or lost wrecks, both Royal Navy and, importantly, the Merchant Navy as well, who numerically lost many more ships at sea than the Royal Navy, that we raise awareness of it. So, in particular, I'd like the Minister to think about whether there can be an equivalent of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites at Risk Register for wrecks abroad. Now, there's a number of UK bodies that keep a list of our wrecks and those that are in danger. And I think raising awareness of where those wrecks are at risk, and importantly, where the remains of British Royal Navy sailors who are serving on those ships, who died in service to our country, may be disturbed and not treated with the dignity of their respect, I think that should be looked at, and I'll be grateful if the Minister could respond to that in his remarks.
Dr. Presti.
Thank you, Mr. Holloway.